Every house, every corner where life unfolds, carries its own story. Sometimes it's quiet, almost unnoticeable, and sometimes it's loud, unsettling, impossible to ignore. When people buy a home, they believe it now fully belongs to them, that they are the only ones who live there, the rightful owners. But sometimes, it turns out the house already has someone else, someone who has no intention of leaving. A spirit may dwell within old walls, holding on to its secrets and mysteries. It can be kind, or something far more disturbing. But one thing never changes. It is a part of that house, its history, its atmosphere. And those who are willing to truly see and truly listen may begin to feel its presence. In this video, I will tell 8 stories about encounters with ghosts, how they reveal themselves, and how they can change people's lives. I spent my childhood in the southern United States, in a house where a ghost lived. My elderly mother still lives there to this day. We would often see a semi-transparent young man slowly passing through the front window and across the yard. Lamps and the radio would turn on and off by themselves at any hour of the night. But the most terrifying thing when I was a kid were the heavy footsteps, slow, deliberate, echoing through the long hallway at the back of the house, the one that led to the extension where my bedroom was. My parents didn't have the money to move somewhere else, so they chose to be honest about it, to stay calm, because whatever was in that house never seemed to actually harm us. The scariest memory I have happened when I was 9 years old. Almost every night, I would lie awake listening to those footsteps as they approached my door, then slowly faded away down the hallway. But one night, something in me snapped. I got angry, really angry, and shouted, "Just leave, right now." The footsteps stopped, right outside my door. The door creaked open slightly, and suddenly, the pillow I was lying on was violently yanked out from under my head and thrown across the room. This story was told to my husband by his co-worker, Alex. He's a completely normal guy. Doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, not the type to make things up. A few years ago, Alex went on a business trip to another city and rented an apartment for a few days. When the landlord showed him the place, Alex noticed something strange in the living room. A cabinet with 2 photographs of an elderly couple, 2 small glasses filled with vodka, and plates of food placed in front of them. The landlord explained calmly that these were his grandparents. They had passed away recently, and 40 days hadn't passed yet. "After the 40 days, I'll take everything away," he said. The apartment itself was nice. 2 rooms, a bedroom where Alex stayed, and a living room with a balcony where that cabinet stood. He admitted it felt uncomfortable being in that room, especially going out to the balcony at night. That first night, he lay in bed, unable to fall asleep, just listening to the silence. Then, he heard it, muttering, low voices coming from the living room. 2 elderly people, as if having a quiet conversation. He froze. He couldn't sleep. The whispering just wouldn't stop. It started to irritate him, to the point where fear turned into anger. Finally, he snapped and shouted, "Stop whispering. Let me sleep." There was a pause, and then a clear voice of an elderly woman replied, "Oh my, such bad language. You shouldn't speak like that. Oh, you really shouldn't." Alex said he forgot how to breathe. Then, in a panic, he said loudly, "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." And after that, complete silence. Nothing like that ever happened again during his stay. My husband and I lived in an old house, over 100 years old, built entirely by hand. Every time we made changes, painting walls, hanging pictures, we would hear footsteps, doors slamming, even the sound of glass shattering. Objects would move on their own, and yet we never felt afraid. But when our relationship started falling apart, everything changed. The house began to feel dark, hostile. After a serious argument, I asked my husband to stay with his parents for a few days. It felt like divorce was inevitable. One day he came back to collect his things. We were standing in the kitchen talking before he left, and suddenly the lights went out. The back door slammed shut. Then we heard someone running, fast, down the basement stairs and back up again. A loud crash followed. That was the first time I truly felt fear in that house. We checked the basement, no one there. But the noises continued. I broke down in tears and admitted I was terrified of staying there alone. He paused, then said he would stay the night in the guest room. The moment he said that, everything went completely silent. Later, we decided to see a therapist and slowly work through our problems. 8 years have passed since then. We're still together, happily married. We have 2 children, and somehow, that terrifying experience brought us closer and saved our family. After my grandparents passed away, my 6-year-old son and I moved into their house. It had been in our family since the 1960s. On our very first night there, I was walking down the stairs while my son waited at the bottom. He looked at me and suddenly asked, "Who's that guy behind you?" I froze, then quickly turned around, but there was no one there. I asked him who he saw. He stared at me for a few seconds, then said, "No one." But the moment he said guy, I knew exactly who he meant. I had an uncle, my grandparents' son. He was 15 years old when I was born. When I was about 1 year old, he took his own life in that very house, in his parents' bedroom. He didn't leave a note. We never found out why. And here's the strangest part. My son and my late uncle share the exact same birthday. Sometimes the kitchen door opens by itself, but other than that, my uncle's presence feels quiet, calm, almost friendly. I lived with my mom and grandmother in a house on a hill. My grandfather built it in the early 2000s. There had never been anything on that land before, but there was a cemetery nearby, and sometimes strange things happened. One evening, I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water, then returned to my room. I placed the glass on my nightstand and went outside to walk the dog. When I came back, the glass was gone. I searched the entire room, checked the kitchen, nowhere. I honestly thought I was losing my mind. Later, I went to take a shower, pulled back the curtain, and there it was, the glass of water, sitting inside the bathtub. No one else was home. Another time, I was asleep when I heard someone whisper my name right next to me. It woke me instantly. My mom told me she had seen me walking past her multiple times, except I wasn't there. Then I would come out of my room, from somewhere else entirely. My grandmother once saw me sitting at the kitchen table at 4 a.m. In the morning, she told me, "You were just sitting there, staring at nothing." I wasn't reading, wasn't on my phone, just sitting. She saw my silhouette clearly, lit by the stove light. One day, my mum came home from work and said she saw me in the yard. She greeted me, but I didn't respond. She assumed I had headphones on, but when she came inside, I was asleep on the couch. She woke me up, confused, asking why I was lying to her. I had no idea what she was talking about. That house felt wrong because something there kept pretending to be me, and that is never a good sign. Some friends of mine, former co-workers, got tired of the fast-paced life in the city and moved out to the countryside. They bought a large old house in a quiet rural area known for its long history and ghost stories. During their housewarming party, they gathered with friends in the main living room. A wireless speaker was sitting on a dresser. Suddenly, it lifted into the air, just rose up on its own, about 3 feet, and then flew across the room, crashing onto the floor. Everyone froze. No one understood what had just happened. They picked it up, put it back in place. Less than 5 minutes later, it happened again. This time, silence filled the room. Everyone stared at the speaker. The homeowner walked over, put it back, and before he could even step away, it shot past him and slammed into the middle of the room. Everyone saw it. This was early in the evening. No one had been drinking. After that, they turned the speaker off. The rest of the night passed quietly. Later, they learned something unsettling. The house had been built on what used to be old burial grounds, once belonging to a church. That entire region is filled with ancient villages, ruins, and stories about restless spirits. When I was younger, I lived in what you'd call a typical haunted house. Strange noises at night, footsteps on the stairs, doors and cabinets opening on their own. I was used to it, but one day, something happened that I still can't explain. I was standing at the kitchen sink. Then I glanced over my left shoulder, and for a moment, reality changed. The living room looked completely different. There was a group of people gathered near the fireplace, like a party was happening. One of them placed a cup on the mantel, but missed. The cup fell to the floor with a loud crash, and instantly, everything snapped back. My normal modern living room, empty, silent. Even now, years later, I still don't know what I saw. The house I grew up in was haunted. I don't know why, but I always felt like whatever was there wasn't tied to the house itself, but to something physical inside it. Sometimes they appeared as full figures. I could hear them talking. Once, a child's voice even called my name. Other times, it was smaller things, objects disappearing and reappearing, loud noises, screams in the middle of the night. Most of the time, I was afraid because I never felt safe. I didn't know what they wanted. There were nights when I was home alone and I could hear voices. And the scariest part wasn't just that it could be ghosts. It was the thought that maybe it wasn't.